I don't hate America. We hate evil and wrongdoing, and you should too. But they've got you thinking that you have to patriotically defend the evil and wrongdoing that your country does, even when you yourselves are really the worst victims of your own so-called civilization. That's the worst part of all this. As I've said before, the only real conspiracy theory that I believe in is the conspiracy of Shaitan, of Iblis. And he mobilizes in societies those sectors of the society according to their own agendas to serve his agenda. And his agenda is to lead as many people into hell as possible. His agenda is to try to prove that his contempt for Nabi Adam alayhi salam was justified. So he wants to prove that human beings are worthless. He wants to prove that they're contemptible. So there's another deeper reason why they want to say that America represents the freest country in the world. Think about that. Why Shaitan wants you to have that impression. Because free, theoretically, means the most natural state, the least controlled state, the least coerced, and the most organic expression of human life and of human society. American society, therefore, must represent the best representation of the true nature of human beings. That's why freedom is the key point in America's image in this grand scheme of things. Because if this is what humanity is supposed to look like when it's left free, then we're surely just as bad as Iblis thought we were. America has become the largest consumer of pornography in the world, which is an industry of degradation that reduces human beings to objects, dehumanizes relationships, and turns intimacy into a spectacle for profit. America's number one, the undisputed champion of this exploitation. Every second of every day, every second, over 30,000 Americans are viewing filthy, explicit content. And each viewing takes them another step away from the sacredness of intimacy and all the blessings that is produced by the intimacy between men and women, between a husband and a wife. America's youth are engaged in sexual activity at an earlier age than almost anywhere else, with nearly 40% of high school students having had intercourse before they even reach 17. This hookup culture isn't just tolerated, it's celebrated, it's encouraged, and it's sold to young people as if it's some kind of an achievement. You sexualize your young without ever maturing them. In their high schools, their colleges, and in your media, young people are told that commitment is a burden, that restraint is repressive, and that pleasure is the only purpose. This isn't freedom. This is engineering. Then look at what they call their alternative lifestyles. which they celebrate as kinks and fetishes and what have you. In America, nearly half of the entire population openly engages in so-called non-traditional sexual behaviors, from bondage to role play to things that I won't even say aloud. These practices are marketed and embraced as part of modern life. They transgress the limits of decency, of normality, and the media glamorizes that and makes perversion normal, make it seem like it's even healthy. But what is this if not the complete perversion of intimacy, of normal relationships? This isn't an organic expression of humanity, it's a corruption of it. And
Hi, Michael.
Hey Abby, what's up?
Nothing
How's it
much. Look, uh, it's going all right. I was gonna play some more, just while people are coming in. Um, but I did want to address this part because, he's speaking out of his faith, right? Um, so I don't necessarily agree with what he's saying on this particular part, because I have seen, um, like African tribes of gay men. So, like, and they might be, I don't know what their faith is because I don't know the details of the tribe, but this is not something that is just um, solely American for people to be non, traditional heterosexual.
Yeah,
Um,
that
so
is one of the
I just,
things that makes it a bit difficult when they're asking for solidarity in times of crisis like the Palestine situation. As much as I am trying to be supportive, as far as some of the way that the propaganda comes out from the Arab and Muslim community, that um, I just don't necessarily have the same kind of I wouldn't take the same line as them, being an agnostic, leaning more towards atheist kind of thing. So um, it just, as much as I want to be supportive, I worry, and I get my worries confirmed from time to time that those problems that aren't we're not able to talk about right now because we've got immediate crises to deal with. Those contradictions do come back to bite us in the ass because we haven't been able to resolve the issues about like ultra some of the very conservative ideas about that the Muslim community has and that the Christians and Jewish communities have and stuff. And I don't appreciate something like circumcision. I've made we've talked about in videos before. Like there are some things I'm opposed to and
male or female.
I want to see change, right? But we can't talk about those right now at all. So, but
Because there's
anyway,
so much other stuff. Like it's like we can't even address our mental anguish about how we run as a society because this everything is just going to shit. And it's like, what fire do you focus on? What fire do you put out? And
yeah.
as I'm saying this, I'm looking at the chat and I just want to address this. Wait, you came to the right place.
Hey
Um,
guys, thanks for being here.
I just want to give you a virtual hug. um, so,
Today's a crazy day, a little bit.
right.
Yeah,
So, anemone. I hope I'm saying that properly.
and I think
It's
it's anemone.
anemone.
Yeah,
That's really pretty. Okay, anemone is saying no amount of suffering it seems will wake anyone up. That's how it feels a lot of times, yeah. And and I guess that's why we're here to do our part to try to wake at least one or two people up. Um, but not in Bangladesh, not in Palestine, not in Liberia, not in Congo, not in Sudan, nowhere. And I'm really glad, Anemone, that you mentioned that because I was watching the Political Matrix. Thank you kindly. Uh, are you joining us? Okay. Yay, Black Life is coming.
oh,
She's gonna admin for us. Um, but anyway, I was watching the Political Matrix, and they gave us a shout out. By the way, thanks Political Matrix. If you don't know them, oh,
yeah.
oh,
Thank you guys for that.
T, can you come here, please? I'm sorry, my glass has a hole in it, and it's like stuff is spilling everywhere.
Oh shit.
Oh, shucks. So I can't even get out my thought. Okay. Um,
Bear with
so
us, everyone.
there's a crack or something that is like it's stuff spilling all over the place. No, it's not your fault. Thank you. All right. All right. So situation averted. So I was watching the Political Matrix. If you guys are not familiar with them, go check them out. Um, but they gave us a shout out Saturday for Noteworthy, so we really appreciate that from them. But they were kind of talking about how these different the focus is on Palestine so much as it should be, but all of these other tragedies are being neglected, which we should be able to walk and chew gum, right? We should be able to talk about Congo. We should be able to talk about what's going on with between northern and southern Sudan, what's going on in Libya, Liberia. That's what we're. Thank you. That's our job here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I have a towel. Thank you. Um, and we've discussed Congo before. We've discussed. I can't even remember how many countries we've focused on, but we should really get back to that
That is a good
soon.
question. We should count one day, but I never have the time to look back at it.
Yeah, but we need to get back to that very soon because I do find that we talk more about Palestine because you think genocide, but okay, well, what about Libya? They're actually uh, it's a slave market. The Congo, they're exploiting children
Yeah.
in what I would consider a slave market.
And you don't really
Um,
hear news coming out of Libya much because everyone, when
mm-mm.
things were happening, I forget exactly, was it 2011? Everyone wanted to talk about it and wanted to focus on it, and then the mass media, whatever, the coverage moves somewhere else, and then all of a sudden people's interest dies. And so if you want to know what's going on, you can't really find out much anymore unless you're really good at like finding alternative sources and being like an internet sleuth. So
Yeah. So before we get into it, I just want to go through the comments and like address these things. Okay. Do you, uh, Anemone says, do y'all know the history of Liberia, how it was created? Google Firestone Natural Rubber Company is horrible. So many atrocities. So I don't know the history of how Liberia was created. I do know when saying Firestone Natural Rubber Company, that brings to mind um, um, what was his name? Leopold.
for the Dutch
Leopold.
guy.
Yes, and
Yeah.
how he and his brutality for the sake of harvesting rubber. So that's what that made me think of that. But that wasn't Liberia. I
Yeah.
think that was in
Well,
the Congo.
we might as well call up the I'll share my screen. We can just share the Wikipedia article, which is everyone knows. Go on, Bella. Stop it. I'm trying to talk. Okay. Um,
and, and
everyone
I'm
knows.
sure. Um,
Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. Um, I'm just trying to get through everything Anemone is saying so we can, um, pull up some other folks as well. Liberia and Libya are two different conflicts. That is correct. Yeah. But same issue, colonialism. Yes. Yes. Um, so Anemone is that a female? He, she, they? They, I'll just say they. They're giving us some background. So they
Right.
created Liberia from freed slaves in America to work on the rubber plantations in Liberia. Now that I did not know.
Yeah. Well,
Oh my
just looking
gosh.
at
Okay, so maybe we should do a segment on that.
yeah, uh, all in good time kind of thing. I just
Yeah.
looking real quick on their Wikipedia page. I see that the Liberian government granted Firestone a 99-year lease for 1 million acres to be chosen by the company wherever in Liberia at a price of 6 cents per acre. Firestone then set about establishing rubber tree plantations of the non-native South American rubber tree, blah, 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 in the country, eventually creating the world's largest rubber plantation. As of 2005, Firestone plantations represented almost 1/3 of the land dedicated to rubber cultivation in Liberia. So that's 1926, 2026, or 2025, I guess, would be the end of that. That's
Oh,
probably a good thing
can you
to
read the
cover
one?
in the new year, I'm guessing.
Can you
So
read
thank you for
the
sharing that.
paragraph underneath it?
Oh, you want me to keep going?
Yeah. Because it was about to say how the United States government was involved.
The
Okay.
United States government was involved in the offshore rubber production operation from the outset, as scholar Christine White pointed out. The deal had the approval of the U.S. State Department, who hoped that the huge contract would keep Liberia within the American sphere of influence without necessitating direct governmental control. The last-minute addition of a $25 million loan attached to the concession was intended to ensure that American corporate influence dominated. Well, I'm glad we read that paragraph, eh?
The freed slave that moved to Liberia formed a bourgeois elite class that oppressed the natives they displayed from founding this country. So oh my gosh,
It's like it
it's
just
also
gets
like a
worse.
proto-Israel. So he's saying like hurt people turned around and hurt more people.
Well, it's like it sounds like a little lesser known situation that was just like Israel, maybe a successful version, whatever. Like Israel wishes that they could do what they did with Liberia, basically, to
Right.
establish themselves. But I don't. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, and I think that's the fear of most Americans or white America is that if they have to keep Black Americans at a certain level because if we get too much power, we're going to turn around and do to them what they did to us. That is the thinking. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we don't want to do that. We just want to be left alone. So this is what I was talking about. So Jacqueline says, didn't the same sort of thing happen in the Congo, where millions of people died because of the rubber industry? Um, with Prince Leopold of Belgium, yes, and he was very cruel. He would cut off their hands if they weren't performing um, to his standard, or try to, get away. So Rondo says the United States is a proto-Israel. Yes, they are, and we're going to be talking about that on um, Black Life. We kind of took off. Uh, can I just mention that real quick? So Monday, I had a guest coming, and they had to cancel. So I just decided not to do civilian discourse. So hopefully, we can get them scheduled again. And then,
Actually, sorry to interrupt, but I heard Kit shouted out the civilian discourse on Hardlands Media this morning.
oh, that's awesome. So I got to make sure we're there Monday. uh, and yeah, we want to talk about APAC and how APAC and its relation to the Black community on Black Life. And I'm trying to get a, um, an original Black Panther confirmed as a guest on Black Life as well. A friend of mine from New York City. I don't know why I never thought of this. Like I was like, oh, I know the original Black Panther. Why did I never think of that?
It might have something to do with all the crazy crises that one after the other we're facing.
Right. Right. So that should be, I think that would be a great show. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I think so too. So
Mhm.
I see Anemone said that's why Fanon says it's not enough to just decolonize the land. We need to create a new man. You should really watch the 3-minute thought video, France Fanon on violence. It's so good. I taught first year sociology students with that video. Okay. Maybe if you want, we could look for it just now and play it at the end of the show as we exit. I don't think we'd actually have an outro video in mind anyway, so I'll just.
I have one, but we could play this first and then because the one I have is short also. So
Right.
yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I got it pulled up. So
Cool.
Oh, and peace, Rondo. Well, Anemone, I'll do you one better. She says, she's a she, by the way. Let me know if you would like my papers. I wrote in university. I have a degree in medical sociology and minors in philosophy and anthropology. I mainly talk about decolonization, race, medicine, etc. Well, I'll do you one better. You can come on the show if you wanted to. Okay, I have to take my camera off.
I've always been very curious. Oh, I don't know what happened with Abby there, but I've always been curious to see kind of what everybody looks like from from the Canadian commies community, right? But I understand that most of the people you meet online, you're probably never actually gonna see their face or hear their voice.
Yeah, you don't have to show your
Trying to be
face.
in a commie community, I think it would be good for us to be trying to actually meet each other as far as trying to organize with each other um, in order to
Well,
take things seriously. You know.
we always say you don't have to show your face, but even still, some people might be a little shy to even speak. But I'm guessing a nominee isn't, since she gives lectures, but maybe she is.
Yeah.
But if you are, we'll take the paper and we can definitely discuss it on here. That would be awesome.
So, where we did you have?
Yay. That'd be awesome. You want to start?
Yeah, I was wondering if you wanted to jump into something. Maybe I'll start. I don't. Maybe I should share the video. Considering every time I've been trying to play videos for my end lately, it hasn't
Yeah, you can
been
send it to me in private chat.
so.
Um,
But we should definitely talk about the most relevant news story of the day. I would say is the possible ICBM, probable ICBM strike that Russia did in Ukraine today. Um, if we check out the military summary channel that I watch for my updates on that war going on, you'll see that there's been some claims that an ICBM was dropped, except for the video kind of demonstrates a kind of what you call anticlimactic. In this case, when we're talking about a nuclear weapon being used, you would expect a massive explosion, but that's kind of missing. So as far as me trying to say that that's what's happened, I only report that because that's what's being reported. But we'll find out in the next few days uh, what's kind of going on. The issue is there's never actually, to my knowledge, there has not actually been an ICBM actively used in combat to date. We have never seen one actually used. And so if they did actually use it, then that's a significant, this is a pretty significant day in world history. So, and it's also the worrying slippery slope into to the doomsday clock finally reaching midnight and actual nuclear war taking place that people have not been taking seriously, which is very difficult to be the one to fearmonger about. I was hearing Scott Ritter earlier today, sort of trying to suggest that every other issue is at this point is irrelevant. So if you take that seriously, it means that discussion of the Israel-Palestine conflict at this point is irrelevant. Discussion of the Congo is irrelevant. Of Sudan, Liberia, anything that we're doing besides discussing the possible nuclear apocalypse that's about to happen in order to prevent it. That's what we should be doing right now. That's some pretty extreme fear mongering. He kind of went a little far, in my opinion. He's suggesting that if you're not scared to death, you should go drink a cup of poison, I believe was his words. I think he's getting a little bit emotional, but it should never have gotten to this point, obviously. So I forgive him on that sense. But there's other issues as far as him being a commentator. I think we need more than just him sounding the alarm, right? And if he's the only one, then he needs to kind of sit down and let somebody else take the charge for a bit because he's kind of got some issues as a
I can't hear you anymore.
Sorry,
Okay.
I moved
Okay.
and my cord gets unplugged, but that's probably a good time to stop talking. I was rambling anyway. So
Hi, Miguel. Good to see you. Um,
hey,
yeah,
Miguel,
so I'm about to
how's it going?
play it, but I just wanted to point out how Jacqueline was mentioning our guest from last week. So and how good it was. So if you guys didn't catch that, we had the Canadian commie on last week. We went on. We were going on for like 3 hours. That's how good the combo was. So I have to go back and watch it again because yeah, we covered a lot of, I don't know. It was like a civilian discourse.
So for this, we don't want to play the whole video because it's like 12 minutes. Just play the beginning couple minutes, just the part that talks about the ICBM, and then essentially, what the story hasn't really changed in the last several months is Ukraine's getting fucked. Russia's constantly encircling troops and putting them in cauldrons and forcing Ukrainian soldiers to surrender. And the Ukrainians are in the slowest full retreat I've ever seen, but it is a full retreat. So there, it's like how long can you stave off collapse? Apparently, a very long time, right? If you got that many bodies to throw into the machine.
Mm.
Let's just let it play, and then we'll play the next one. That's a little bit of an update. This was from the first uh, update in the morning, and then there's another video from the same guy from this afternoon. So
And tell me again where you wanted me to stop, like when he.
just when he stops talking about the ICBM.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the apocalypse that didn't start. I'll remind you that yesterday the Embassy of the United States of America in Kiev warned of a powerful strike on Ukraine. And yesterday, during the 20th of November, everybody was waiting for this strike, was waiting the significant number of missiles, the significant number of aircrafts, calibers, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and many, many other things. But later, somewhere in the evening, we got report that most likely the Russians are not going to launch massive missile attack over the entire territory of Ukraine, but the Russians are planning to attack the territory of Ukraine with intercontinental ballistic missile. Information is spreading online that the Russian Federation is planning to launch a large-scale missile strike on the territory of Ukraine and use a new ballistic missile. So there was a new ballistic missile strike, but there were no massive missile strikes. Now let's discuss in details. Today, on the 21st of November, the Ukrainian sources began publishing very weird and very strange information that was coming from the city by the name of Dnipro. First, we got the report of work of Ukraine Air Defense, and Ukrainians are saying that in the morning of the 21st of November of 2024, in the period of time between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., the Russians attacked the city of Dnipro with missiles of different types. Furthermore, the Ukrainians are saying that the Russians used ICBM from the Astrakhan region. And as a result of this attack, the Russians damaged and destroyed the industrial zone of city of Dnipro. As for the morning of the 21st of November, we haven't received even a single picture that can confirm or show us the results of that attack, but the sources are saying that the strike was very powerful. Once again, the Russians used just 9 missiles, according to Ukrainian sources, 1 intercontinental ballistic missile, 1 Kinzhal hypersonic missile, and 7 cruise missiles Ha-101, and 6 of 7 missiles of 101 Ha-101 were brought down by the Ukrainians. And the Russians are saying that they managed to deal the significant damage. The Russians basically managed to reduce to ruins the entire industrial complex of the city of Dnipro with a significant number of manufacturers and different military objects, military facilities that Ukrainians are using to produce weapon, maybe missile, maybe something else. Maybe there was a bunker with some general, maybe with Syrsky himself. We don't know for sure. The only thing we know for sure is that the Russians managed to deal the significant damage. As for the morning of the 21st of November, we have just one video that probably, and according to different authors, show us the results and the process of how the Russians were attacking the territory of Dnipro with its ICBM. Let's take a look at this video because the video is very, very interesting. So these are, as you can see, there were like 6 strikes, and every single strike has 6 missiles inside. So that was something new that we haven't seen before during the special military operation, or even during probably since the end of the Second World War. That was obviously something powerful from the Russian side, and most likely the Russians managed to deal or even to destroy the entire industrial zone of the Dnipro city. Of course, I believe that today the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation will provide us the real video, probably with from the satellites or from the drone that was flying above the Dnipro, to understand the consequences, the process of attack, and the consequences as well.
So that's maybe the good point to stop. It looks like the ad timed it perfectly anyway. So, but so that video was kind of anticlimactic and suspicious as far as you claiming an ICBM strike happened, and we see those streaks of light, right? But then if you look at the other video, you'll see later in the day the Ukrainian sources shared a video. And it shows a little bit more clearly the strike that happened, which does seem quite like modern warfare, impressive technology, but still very confusing. We're going to have to kind of keep our eyes out, or ears open for the next few days as far as confirmation from all sides here, because Russia has their propaganda that they've got going on too, and I'm sure trying to panic us into the West, not us, the evil empire, into finally feeling like they've actually played chicken like one too many times is part of it. So
Okay, I am like, these are blind reactions for me because I didn't hear about this today, and I heard it's like giving me thoughts of how they were saying, oh, the United States is saying that they're supposed to strike from within Ukraine. They're supposed to strike from within Ukraine. And I was just thinking about Iran. They kept saying Iran's supposed to strike. Like, how much of this is like strategic fear mongering?
there's terrorizing of the public. Terrorizing, I would say. It's not just a terror bombing that's terrorism. When you try and convince entire populations that they're going to be incinerated, I feel like that's kind of should be falling under the definition of terrorism. But anyway.
Yeah, this is a little off the subject, but it'll come together for a second. So we have a city that's a new like district that was created purposely to separate themselves from North Baton Rouge, because North Baton Rouge is predominantly Black, and so they wanted to be able to control their own school systems, even though Baton Rouge would pay them money, but they wanted to be in control of the money for their schools on their own. So basically, they're trying to siphon off money from us. And I was reading. I was in that area, and the area is called St. George. So I got a St. George paper, and all they could talk about was how scary it is to go outside, and there's so much crime in Baton Rouge, and it's not safe. And I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like, I'm not scared at all. I just go about my business daily. But I'm like, oh, okay, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to make them say, hey, you got to stay over here, because if you go over there, like it's like Chicago over there. Like those subhumans are just running rampant with no self-control, and it's not even true. Like, statistically, it's not true, but you could just say it. And the purpose of it is because there's a a Republican mayor and a Democratic mayor that have to have a runoff um, because they didn't get enough votes. And so they're trying to fearmonger people into voting for the Republican mayor because the Democratic mayor was already in charge. Like she's an incumbent. So they're trying to make it seem like she did such a bad job that we're just out here like the wild wild west, and we need a Republican to come clean up the streets. You know, the same old tired.
The fascist kind of rhetoric that they're
Right.
trotting out, that people have been exposed to for long enough that they're kind of asleep to that. It's the idea that it's fascist.
Hmm.
One story I was going to get into, I noticed.
Did you want me to play the other video?
Yeah, we should do that. But then I'll just tease up. I heard Matt Gaetz withdrew from the Attorney General consideration.
Well, before we go to that segment, I do have something that is relevant to this about the latest with Anthony Blinken. So
Okay.
I'd like to do that before we move on to another segment.
Yep.
Here we go. And do you have an idea of where you want me to stop, or are you just going to say, hey, you can stop here?
It should just be like a couple of minutes, quick coverage in the beginning. Same thing.
Okay.
Not exactly sure. But.
Before I hit play, the comments are going, or Black Life is here. There she is. Just in the background, helping us out in the chat. So thank you very much, Black Life. All right, so here we go.
Hello, my dear friends. You're in the Military Summer channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 21st of November of 2024. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And the most important, the most interesting updates are coming from the southern part of Ukraine, more precisely from the city of Dnipro. Today the Russians attacked this territory by the intercontinental ballistic missile, and as a result of this attack, something weird, something strange happened. Let's discuss the situation in details, and first let's talk about the information that was provided us by the pro-Ukrainian sources. The Ukrainians are saying that on the morning of November 21st, between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. of Ukrainian time, Russian forces attacked the city of Dnipro with missiles of various types. Furthermore, the Ukrainians reported that one of the missiles was the ICBM, and later we got additional details what kind of ICBM the Russians were using, and the Ukrainians also, this information was stated and published by the Ukrainian sources, and according to them, in the morning the Russian Federation launched an intercontinental ballistic missile from the Astrakhan region, and that was RS-26 Rubesh. So this is the picture most likely of this system. Furthermore, the Ukrainians stated that they managed to bring down just 6 of 9 missiles. They haven't managed to destroy this ICBM. They haven't managed to destroy one Kinjal. The only thing that the Ukrainians managed to bring down is 6 cruise missiles of 7. And also in the morning, we start receiving the first video. And this is the first video about the ICBM attack on the territory of Dnipro. This is the first scene, the first video that was published in the internet, and most likely you have already seen this video. Very powerful scenes, very dangerous, very, weird, very mysterious weapon the Russians used. Very difficult even to find the words how to describe the feelings and your attitudes to this picture. But after the first shock, of course, the military experts began checking the information, trying to find as many as possible details. And first, and the most important thing that is coming to our eyes is that there were several waves, and we see that every single wave have several warheads. So let's discuss this in details, and we got the information, we got the picture more precisely, a very, very zoomed in picture of the warheads in one wave. And according to this calculation, according to this picture, every single wave had up to 6 warheads. So which means that the Russians used something very unique, something very powerful that probably had a lot of warheads inside of it. Later, we got another video that was also published by the Ukrainian sources. And in this video, for example, we can see more clearly the number of strikes. As you can see, there were several strikes, several waves, let's call it like this. And if we calculate the number of strikes, there were up to 6 waves. And as I understand, every single wave had up to 6 warheads. So basically, as a result of this action, the Russians attacked the city of Dnipro, more precisely the industrial zone of the city of Dnipro, with about 36 warheads, which is obviously the significant, the significant result for the entire Russian rocket system and rocket technologies. There are a few important things, few important questions about this video. First of all, it's very difficult to understand, and the Russians, nobody can explain why there are no explosions. So there are a lot of versions. Why don't we see any explosion as a result of any strike? Some people are saying that those warheads were just test warheads without explosive inside, and they were working just on the kinetic energy, nothing more. And the Russians' main task of the Russians was just to show the Western countries and the Ukraine the Russian possibilities and capabilities. This is the first explanation why we don't see any explosion. The second explanation is that the warheads were so powerful that they managed to dig in deeper, very deep inside of the surface, inside of the earth, underground, and the main explosions and the main damage took place exactly there, not on the surface but underground. So that's why we don't see any explosion. And the sources are saying that the Russians managed to deal the significant damage exactly to this industrial zone. Anyway, we don't have any information when we can't give the real answer to this question, whether the Russians managed to destroy this entire industrial complex or not. But one thing we know for sure, that now the Ukrainians will think more whether they going to attack deep inside of Russian Federation or not. But of course, as for the Ukrainians, for them, from this moment, it's not very good idea to attack deep inside of Russia as they attacked yesterday. Today we got additional details how the Ukrainians were bombing the Kursk region with the cruise missile Storm Shadows of United Kingdom production. Later we got additional details that as a result of reconnaissance operation, the Ukrainians managed to discover the headquarters of the group of forces north, and exactly with the use of a Storm Shadows, the Ukrainians destroyed this headquarters and the Russians suffered the significant losses, also according to Ukrainian sources. And now the Ukrainians will think to repeat such a strikes or not. Of course, when talking about the Western countries,
if you have ever wanted to land a 100 to 150K a year fully remote career in as little as the next 4 months, listen up carefully. And before you run away.
Sorry, we could maybe stop it here. I think you're muted too. I muted myself for you.
Yeah, have you ever wanted to land a career like that?
I wasn't listening to the ad.
Me either. So, I wanted to point out something Jacqueline said, and I don't know if right now is the time to point. Yeah, that thing about the thing with fear mongering is that fear isn't an emotion that people can feel on a constant basis. It's too exhausting. Fear wears away and is replaced by anger and resolve. So I'm trying to figure out, when do we get to the resolve part?
Well, it's not replaced with anger and resolve, it's replaced with despair and hopelessness.
Yeah, it could be that too. Yeah, I think it's more being replaced with despair and hopelessness than and anger, but the resolve part would be great. Yeah, fear causes stress, which causes cancer. All that good stuff. Oh my goodness. I am going to see if I'm going to try something, because usually when I try to share within, I lose the volume. So tell me if you cannot hear. It already gave me a warning that I lost my volume. Okay. So that means I always have to stop and restart. All right. That really sucks, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, it really does. This is kind of reminds me of that quote, coward dies 1,000 deaths, right? I think, but a hero only one. I forget the exact quote, but the issue I think that we have is with our intellectual abuse that we often have. We're trying to whip people up into being courageous. What we often do inadvertently is we destroy those people maybe We need to be building up instead by treating everyone like they're cowards, when maybe it's not really logical or strategic to be. Often what I think people forget is that a very simple way to goad someone into doing something stupid is to call them a coward, especially men. And then in order to prove how wrong that is, then people do something rash, and they play right into somebody's hands. So it's not so simple as like the working class in the West is a bunch of cowards, and they don't really know too stupid to know what's going on. I think to some degree there's some truth to that, but obviously when we're saying that about everyone, especially a whole bunch of people we don't know, we are kind of saying something emotional as opposed to factual. So anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so let me go ahead and start this. So this is Anthony Blinken was in Brussels about last week, I believe. And well, I'll just play it and we'll meet on the other side. It's just a minute.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Brussels on Wednesday for urgent talks with EU and NATO officials on boosting support for Ukraine. Officials anticipate a policy shift concerning U.S. support for Ukraine and NATO when Donald Trump returns to the White House. In the months leading up to the end of President Biden's term, Democrats are trying to implement as many priorities as they can while they have the majority in the Senate. While in Brussels, Blinken outlined plans for additional U.S. support to Ukraine before January.
We've obligated just recently and pushed out the door another $8 billion in security assistance for Ukraine. That was in September. Another almost $500 million just a few weeks ago. And President Biden is committed to making sure that every dollar we have at our disposal will be pushed out the door between now and January 20th.
NATO chief Mark Rutte said instability across Europe, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific is increasingly interconnected, pointing to Moscow buying dual-use goods from China and drone technology from Iran. Blinken emphasized that NATO would also pursue a highly intense agenda during the last months of President Joe Biden's administration.
Okay, so Michael, I think they're trying to make us feel like, oh, we have to try to get this job done because when Trump gets into office, he's gonna mess it up. Hold on.
Welcome to Democracy.
No, Amy Goodman, I don't want to hear you. So I personally think two things. I don't think Trump is going to immediately just stop this war in Ukraine. Of course, this is an opportunity for him as well, and his family, and Elon Musk. So I'm sure it's still going to continue for some time. And this new influx of money for a war that they know is unwinnable for Ukraine. I think this is just the last money grab for the people in power as Democrats to like keep funneling money laundering, and making sure their friends get as much as they can before they're out the door.
Yeah,
that's my predictions. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm sure that there's a little bit of some kind of difference as far as competition is investment-wise between the Democratic and Republican politicians. So they kind of, if the war in Ukraine doesn't go a certain way as far as the Democrats have been planning, I'm sure that a lot of them stand to lose personally a lot of money. And so they definitely know that they only have this small window of opportunity left. And I think it's just personal greed. And I agree with you. I don't think Trump's going to be in any way able to stop the war in Ukraine. A lot of people are naive, believing his anti-war kind of rhetoric. And then we see he's stacked his cabinet full of like the most vicious war hawks. So
as Cat Williams would say, Dark Vader, Bane.
Exactly. Yeah.
What other villains we have out there?
Yeah, that guy who snaps his fingers or whatever in that Marvel movie comes to mind or whatever. They're looking for someone like that who can they're dreaming that they have somebody who could accomplish their imperial objectives that easily. But unfortunately, unfortunately for them, that's not a reality that they're going to get. So there is no going back at this point. It's scary.
Now, I do have I know we want to get to the next segment, but I did have like one more thing I want to just in this vein about all this money going to Ukraine, right? And our predictions, the predictions we just made about what Trump's going to do. JD Vance, I think someone asked JD Vance about Ukraine. And so I want to show you his response to that.
Right. Well, that'll be a good way, I think, to segue into the topic about the Matt Gaetz Senate confirmation thing, and then I
Okay,
thought we could
cool.
talk about WS article that talks about the dictatorial threat of Trump's recess appointment plan, because that's related to the Matt Gaetz thing. I think that would help shine a bit of light that you don't get from the mainstream media as to what would explain Matt Gaetz' withdrawal at this point. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think that's a good. I think that's a good flow of information. Okay,
Yeah.
so here we go.
Georgia. Next question.
Thank you for doing this, Senator. My question for you is, what do you have to say about President Trump pushing and claim that FEMA is running out of money for her hurricane relief because of funding for programs that support migrants?
Well, let me say a couple things about this. First of all, the idea that FEMA is running out of money is something that the leadership of the Harris administration has said, that especially if there's another disaster, they've said that they might have to go back to the well. And I think a lot of Americans are saying, well, how can we afford to give billions of dollars to illegal immigrants in this country, but we've got to go back to the well to provide disaster relief for our own citizens? That's a disgrace. Now, the media's obsessed with, well, there's one bucket of money over here and there's another bucket of money over here. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that our own government is sending billions of dollars to illegal aliens when there are hardworking Americans. We got to focus on them. Focus on our American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by these terrible storms. That's what Kamala Harris ought to be doing, and it's a damn shame that she's not doing her job. Georgia.
Okay. More divide and conquer bullshit. Look this way, don't look that way, right? Congress has to fund FEMA.
Yeah, that bipartisan Congress that they work together on, right? That they act like they're so different, but
exactly.
I think it's, of course, will get branded as paranoid, whatever. But I feel, or conspiracy theorists, it's quite clear to me that they intentionally refuse to fund FEMA properly and misuse the funds that they did have there, so as to manufacture a crisis, so as to blame it on immigrants. Like, it's quite clear if you've been paying attention to politics for years. And if you just tune into the mainstream media whenever you're in an airport or something, you're really not going to understand what like just how manipulative that little speech was. So.
And Mike Pompeo's back. He's out of private practice, going back into the Trump administration. And if you guys remember, when Mike Pompeo left the Trump administration, you know, when it switched hands into Biden, where did he go? He went to work for a private law firm whose sole purpose is to represent CEOs who had illegal immigrants working for them, to work for them so they didn't go to jail for that, to prove that they didn't know. Like there's so many loopholes in the. I can't remember. We did a segment on this. There's so many loopholes in the law that protect CEOs that hire undocumented workers and illegal immigrants, that shield them from any prosecution. So he's left there, and now he's back in the Trump administration. So you can't tell me that Trump in his administration and his and these companies that are buddy with him don't want those people here. But I digress. I digress. Hi, Sean. Sean's here. I don't know if he's talking about young Morpheus from Political.
Sorry, I'm
Matrix,
glitching
or-
bad. I can't tell if you guys can hear me.
Morpheus is here.
Yeah. So this was actually Black Life saying she heard that there are 200 private prisons coming. Why is it so easy to benefit from problems instead of solving some? Yeah, well. Some of those private prisons might be coming because of the test scores. Young Morpheus is in the building. Oh, you showed me? My bad. Shout out to young Morpheus from the Political Matrix. So let's see. Before I move on, I just wanted to see if I had his. Well, it's real easy. It's just the Political Matrix. So if you haven't seen them before, go check them out. Young Morpheus, I did. I was able to watch your show on Saturday, not the live version. I went back and watched it. It was great. It was funny, and I really want you guys to come back. I want to talk about that tether issue. Oh, we got to discuss.
I'm waiting for you guys to talk about that. Can you hear me now? Am I
I
back?
can hear you. I can hear you now. Yeah. Yeah, I would really
Yeah, I would
love
love
to
to
dive
for you
into
guys to
that.
discuss that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Your Nina's here.
And the whole ADOS stuff. Yeah, all that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
FBA stuff. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
So I shared with you, I was gonna share the article, but then when I tried to share my screen, everything got really glitchy.
Okay.
So I thought I'd share it with you in the private chat if you can bring it up.
I got you. So here we go. There's no audio that I have to worry about, right?
No, it's just an article to read, and then I'll put in
Perfect.
queue up the next one too. So
Perfect.
might do a lot of reading today compared to the last couple episodes. Hope you guys are down for it.
So Black Light, no. Let me make this bigger. You don't see it yet, do you? Pardon me, everyone. I really need to get another clicker, and I keep saying that. Maybe I'm a little nostalgic about my clicker.
We all get attached to the
I
stuff
call
we
it a
had.
clicker. Black Life said, "Do you mean mouse?" Yeah, a clicker. All right. So, do you want to read? I'll let you do the honors.
Yeah, just hopefully it's big enough for me to read. If you Matt Gaetz withdraws from Attorney General consideration. So the words in the article are a bit small. If you can make it a bit bigger, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Technically, I could read it, but it's straining the eyes a bit. So. Hey, Yonina. Good to see you, Marcus.
There we go.
Cobra, thank you for joining.
Oh, hi, Cobra. Cobra's here too. That's awesome.
Okay, so Matt Gaetz announced Thursday his withdrawal from consideration to be U.S. Attorney General. He said his confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to Trump's team. It's the first major defeat that Trump has faced in staffing his new administration. Matt Gaetz has withdrawn himself from consideration to be President-elect Donald Trump's nominee for U.S. Attorney General. A lot of unnecessary words there. The former Florida congressman announced on Thursday afternoon. In a post on X, Gaetz said that the momentum behind his nomination was strong. but that his confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction for the Trump-Vance transition team. What kind of a distraction would that be, I wonder? It comes after Gates began meeting with senators on Wednesday, accompanied by Vice President-elect Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance blah, blah, blah. That's a tweet from Matt Gaetz, which we don't need to show more, I guess.
Oh, here it is right here.
Right. I greatly appreciate the recent efforts of Matt Gaetz in seeking approval to be Attorney General, Trump wrote on Truth Social after Gaetz announced his withdrawal. He was doing very well, but at the same time did not want to be a distraction for the administration, for which he has much respect. Matt has a wonderful future, and I look forward to watching all of the great things he will do. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell told the Washington Post that Gaetz' decision to withdraw was appropriate. So I guess
this is so interesting because I'm just going to show his picture while we talk. This is so interesting because I had it set in my head that they were going to try to push him through during recess.
A lot of people were building all kinds of theories as to what's about to happen with his. Like they forgot. I think a lot of people forgot that it wasn't wasn't secure, done deal yet. It was just a nomination. So.
Right, but it was a nomination that was gonna be really hard to get through. So I just figured it was going to be a recess appointment. That was my prediction.
Yeah,
I was wrong.
That's what the WWS article was talking about. And I find I find their analysis is often very interesting. But then there's the thing that communists need to know about the controversy between Trotskyists and Marxist-Leninists and stuff. So I take what they have to say with a grain of salt, because they're always like hard line against unions and stuff, and like they just have a different kind of Trotskyist permanent revolution style that kind of does clash with the Marxist-Leninist approach, and they're kind of trying to exercise through praxis which approach is better. And like the Trotskyist approach is more we cannot have any kind of working with bourgeois. We have to be like 100% against them all the time, which is a permanent war mentality. And then the Marxist-Leninists seem to be more, we need to find capitalists to make concessions with, the ones that we can work with to turn into class traders and stuff. So it's interesting as far as like maybe ideally it would be nice to not have to get into bed into beds with other people we don't like, but pragmatically, it might be a self-defeating approach to try and not work with capitalists, period. But that's my kind of take on what's going on there. We can keep reading a bit on the AOL article, because they sort of get into the idea that the distraction that Matt Gaetz is the reason why he's not an acceptable appointment is because the pedophile accusations.
I was looking for a comment Jacqueline made. It was like way up there though. So she didn't even know we were going to be talking about Matt Gaetz. So so she said it like a long time ago. I couldn't find it. But
sorry.
A lot of people on the right say that the accusations are unfounded, and it's just a distraction, just like all those felony convictions of Trump were distraction from people who are doing good work for the country. Okay, I just find it so interesting that it's like pedophilia is okay if it's on my side, on my political party. I could explain that away. But if it's on my opposing political party, then I'm pointing all the fingers, guns blazing. We got to get you out of here. You're a disgrace to America, like all the things, right? But if it's on the side of the political party that you are affiliated with, then somehow you're able to explain all of it away.
Yeah.
That is such occult behavior.
It's clearly like cognitive bias, kind of like not willing to address like illogical positions, just like picking your team and sticking with it, whatever vote blue no matter who kind of stuff. It's very turn your brain off kind of thinking, which is not really thinking. So
which is not really thinking. I see you got me another article.
yeah. Because you're talking about the what do you call it? The appointments,
recess appointments, yes.
Recess appointments. So this is one of those. Matt Gaetz is not the only recess appointment that they're trying to get away with. And what is the significance about this strategy that they have? So there's a lot of people, like when you say that Trump's being a fascist, they don't understand where that's coming from. They don't see the evidence. So as much as Cobra is saying, well, let me find it. He doesn't need to know shit about Trots other than they will complain and try to stop communist organizing. And that Trots are like ultras who don't read any communist theory. They went out of their way to purposely find alt text on site as a reading mark instead of reading Marx and Engels. So I'm not sure as far as what you're saying, if that definitely applies to the Socialist Equality Party and their World Socialist website. I do appreciate that they have this news, this socialist news website that talks about class struggle all around the world. I would just wish that there was like a Marxist-Leninist version to compare it with. I can't work with these guys. I tried to, whatever their stance on COVID and mine, completely diametrically opposed, and I got banned from their chats for trying to engage in some discussion, dialectic about it, whatever. Although I'm clumsy and I don't read enough theory myself, right? I'm trying to, but I'm struggling with threats of nuclear apocalypse to find it useful to read a book from 100 years ago to put it into practice when we're all going to go up in flames in a week. So I guess that's not smart.
Did they ban you? Did they ban you?
Me,
Or
right?
did their...
A long time ago, yeah. So I'm a little bit being charitable by sharing their work, but
so it wasn't their moderators, it was them?
I'm not sure, whatever, but like you can't even tell these days if it's a person or if it's a program, but I'm pretty sure it was their moderators of their website or whatever. But
so
I think history I think will vindicate me. I think that their stance on COVID has been a disaster, right? But they're just not like everyone with a sunk cost fallacy. They cannot abandon it now.
So I want to say hello to Kill Your Egregores and T.O. Orca. T.O. Orca wants to know who you're talking about.
The Socialist Equality Party here, the World Socialist website. I'm not sure exactly when she put the word who, at what point who I was talking about, but
that's who they were asking about.
Yeah, the Trotskyists basically. So as much as there's probably some validity to the criticisms that both groups have of each other, each group probably thinks that their criticism is way more valid than the other, right? Of course, the Trotskyists are completely wrong and the Marxist-Leninists are completely right? Otherwise, you're not a real communist, right? That is, even if you're right about that, or whatever, it's defeating for achieving revolution because they have thousands of people who are convinced that they're communist, who are engaging in their education, their path of education that they believe is the most revolutionary communist mentality that they've adopted. And then we have this disagreement. We have two versions of communism that the ignorant public comes to find, and it forces the conversation back into this repetitive, like, conversation about Stalin and Trotsky and Lenin that's in the 1930s and 40s or whatever. And then we can't move history past that point because every time you try and talk about communism, we have to talk about Stalin and Trotsky and Lenin, and we can't move past it. It's stupid, okay? I don't really care who's right or wrong anymore because you're both wrong at this point because neither group has achieved the revolution. So the whole thing about you have your theory, I have mine or whatever, we put it into practice, we see who's right. You both haven't achieved the praxis that demonstrates you're most right. I mean, you could argue the Marxist-Leninists, I think, have an argumental edge when they have the only existing communist countries today are Marxist-Leninist, but there's only like 5 of them. So I think the Stalinist argument that communism in one country is too nationalistic and has kind of demonstrated itself to be a bit of a failure. And the more that we have to rely on drumming up jingoistic support of nationalism, it seems to kind of play into the horseshoe theory of like the left is not that different from the right after all, because their pragmatic approach amounts to more or less the same thing. So,
I mean, is there really a left and a right? I wanted to mention this to you. I keep forgetting. I went to the library to get that book, the trade unions book by Lenin.
mhm.
They don't have it anywhere in the entire city.
No, you can't even. That's the thing. They want to tell everyone, go read theory, right? First of all, the population is only getting more illiterate, not less. So you're just asking for people to do something that they cannot. All right. And then
he told me they have it on ebook, but not at this library. I said it's an ebook. Doesn't that just come from a server? Like, can't you just, if it's an ebook, every library should have access to it, right? Like,
they're definitely suppressing all the literature that we need to read. So even finding access to the information is difficult enough. And then maybe we should plug, I guess, Marxist.org. It's a good website to go to for free reading of a lot of theory that you can find online. But I think a lot of us are online way too much. So then to tell people, well, you can always read theory online. We already have people like 8 hours a day on the screen. So now, how do you address that? That's part of the problem with why we can't read anymore, is the damage to the frontal cortex and shit that's probably happening due to all this technology exposure or whatever. But I am hypocritical as fuck with that, right? So it's like, anyway, I'll try my best to read the theory. I've already read quite a bit of it in bits and pieces, but it's like ADD, schizo brain or whatever. I get distracted and like my knowledge is like hodgepodge, and it's a bit problematic.
Maybe you should do some small TikToks about it.
Maybe I can try, right? I have to get on a TikTok, right?
Okay. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, sure.
Getting back to...
Because otherwise we just bashed on the Trotskyists without even getting into their words. We should at least let them speak for themselves. So.
Okay. So this is the what T.L. Orca was asking about, the World Socialist website. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. This article's from Eric London. He's like a lawyer guy over there.
Make it bigger for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Donald Trump's threat to force through his slate of far-right cabinet nominees as recess appointments without Senate confirmation votes marks a significant step in the de jure breakdown of constitutional forms of government. Trump's plan is for congressional allies to effectively auto-prorogue the legislature to evade the advice and consent clause of the Constitution. It comes as Trump brags of plans to rule by emergency decree and deploy federal troops to deport immigrant workers. In April 2020, Trump threatened to prorogue the legislature and exercise my constitutional authority to adjourn both chambers of Congress through executive fiat. So this is one of those things I feel like we can discuss a little bit if we think that that's Trotskyist propagandistic fear-mongering, the way that they've worded that, or if that is essentially what's going on, and it's just a Trotskyist who's the one telling you this news.
Well, I can tell you, T.O. Orca says that I don't know if it's, I'm just going to say they caught a video recently of them, and they sound very Americanized to them. So yeah. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
As far as the SEP seems very Americanized, I'm not sure exactly what you kind of mean by that.
I'm assuming from the WSW.
Yeah, well, I'd say like the ACP seems more Americanized to me, right? Both like these guys do have like an international kind of. If you look on, if we back out of this article and look at their website and you scroll down, like they have articles every day on a whole bunch of different sections of the world and stuff, and they have different parties, like SEP parties, in a whole bunch of countries around the world, like sister parties. So they do try and have I think the Trotskyist approach is more of an internationalist approach than the Marxist-Leninist approach, which is more nationalistic intentionally. So
You wanted me to show, you said scroll down.
Well, they may have changed it because I haven't been on it as often, but they have all these different sections, and then they used to be
Oh, okay.
reporting, Asia and the Pacific, right? They
Mhm.
report on Europe, and they report on the Americas, the global class struggle. So they do try to make their stance like not being favoritist towards the West or the East. They are, as Trotskyists, they are much more critical of China. They kind of see them more. I haven't really read what their stance on China is, but I'm guessing they kind of see them as more like fascistic as opposed to like state capitalism as opposed to genuine modern day representation of Marxist Leninism, because they call Marxist Leninists Stalinists and stuff, right?
Hmm.
But
Okay.
feel
I
free,
actually have an article about China.
feel free to in your own time explore the World Socialist website. Now we've given them quite
WSW.org.
promotion here.
Well, it's just more information.
Yeah. So, because we often don't cross promote each other because we're afraid of elevating the enemy, apparently. And then we play into the trope that the left wants to eat itself, and they think everybody they don't like is a Nazi, right? So anyway, back to the article.
I'm
Now
not sure
on,
where you were.
yeah, right. Now on November 10th was where I left off.
Oh, okay.
Now on November 10th, in the run-up to the Senate Republican Conference's vote for majority leader, Trump issued a statement on social media declaring that any Republican senator seeking the coveted leadership position in the United States Senate must agree to recess appointments in the Senate, without which we will not be able to get people confirmed in a timely manner. We need positions filled immediately. So then the next paragraph, it's called Trump and the Führer Principle. So this is about, as far as the comparisons to Hitler, the Trotskyists are one of these people who are, yes, we do believe that there's a valid comparison between Trump and Hitler. But if you watch like Hardlands media, you see lots of people are very dismissive of this. So they actually, I think, need the parallels pointed out to them so that they can still decide whether or not the Trotskyists are being hyperbolic or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I think as long as you're watching CNN and MSNBC all the time so you can bash on them, as much as you're trying to destroy corporate media, you're keeping it alive so that you have something to talk about every day. That would be one of my criticisms of Hardlands Media and RBN too. While I appreciate their work quite a bit, I get really tired of hearing the corporate media so that we can bash it. So that's my 2 cents. So back to this article. The Republican conference elected John Thune of South Dakota, who declared shortly thereafter that he was open to Trump's proposal for recess appointments of far-right figures like Matt Gaetz, Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy, and Kristi Noem for Attorney General, Defense, Health and Human Services, and Department of Homeland Security, respectively. You mind scrolling down there a bit?
Oops, sorry.
I think we have all the options on the table, Thune said, and the Senate will perform its constitutional role under advise and consent, but we are not going to allow the Democrats to thwart the will of the American people in giving President Trump the people that he wants in those positions to implement his agenda. Other prominent Republicans have rushed to support Trump's call for recess appointments. Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville told the media last week, in reference to the Senate's role in confirming cabinet appointments, "It's not up to us to determine that, though it most certainly is." Thune's claim that the will of the people means giving President Trump what he wants is a dangerous rehash of the Führer principle, the pseudo-legal doctrine elevating the national leader above the rule of law. In reality, Thune's warning that all options are on the table, a phrase out of the imperialist war playbook, is a brazen threat to the legislative branch. Either confirm Trump's nominees or Trump will violate the Constitution and cut the legislature out of appointments. So this is where we would have to analyze, because they're basing this claim that it's a dangerous rehash of the Führer principle on the words, like the phrasing that Thune is using and that Trump and other Republicans have been using over the past several years. And the way that they interpret the use of these phrases allows them to draw these conclusions, and then other people interpret these phrases differently. So it comes down to which dog whistles are being employed, kind of thing. So we can read a little bit more, because I think it is useful for Americans who like to be very proud of what they consider to be American to revisit this idea about the division of powers between legislature, executive, and judiciary, because that's essentially one of those things that makes you American more than anything. Like the literal legal structure of the government and the way that it shapes citizens over years is one of the things that defines the culture of its people. And I think Americans have always been kind of very proud of the structure of their government. They feel like it was always a very revolutionary thing with the throwing off of the monarchy and stuff. And then with people being
and then setting one up here.
When you're comfortable with dictatorship coming back, essentially you're saying that you're not really proud of what America has been for the past 200-300 years, and you want it to go become what America was trying to like get away from. That's one of the things as a Canadian I feel like we didn't get right with our own like independence. We never threw off the British crown. We still have some kind of fetishization of monarchism, and the Americans at the very least have historically, at least, I don't know about anymore because they're so uneducated, whatever, they have a distaste and a hatred for monarchy, which is what I thought was based about Americans. But you can't really compliment Americans much these days or whatever without seeming like you're just like simping for them, right? So I'm talking about the American people, not the fucking government. Right? Anyway, so this, I think this plan makes clear. So this plan makes clear that incoming administration will be operating with explicitly extra constitutional methods, essentially in continuity with the coup attempt of January 6, 2021. I don't think that it was smart of them to want to make that connection. I think that's going to kind of take away from the credibility of this article to try and lump it in with January 6th, but they're setting up their argument. So while it is possible that Trump and his Republican Senate allies' threats to end run the Constitution may succeed in forcing Congress to back Trump's reactionary cabinet slate, the mere threat to accomplish his goals the easy way, legal, or the hard way, illegal, itself means the Constitution is being transformed into a dead letter. So do we have any
Michael, say they did push stuff through recess and it's the illegal way or what? Nothing's gonna happen. So why?
I feel like the law itself is turned into a dead letter at this point.
So. Yeah, so I mean, it's good for us to talk about it, so we remain educated, and at least so we don't roll over. And hopefully, the more people we bring with us to educate them on the fact that we're getting bulldozed, then that's going to create the buzz needed for, as Jacqueline would say, the resolve. I know you're not looking at the chat, so I wanted to, I didn't want to.
I didn't stop to take a breath, right?
Black was gone.
She was trying to tell you Black Life was like,
I heard him breathe. I heard him go like this. That's why I heard him go just a little bit. And I was like, nah, man, breathe, like, breathe.
It's the way I get, I just get excited. So
yep.
I heard you trying to say something, and then I just kept going. So
yeah, we missed a lot in the chat, both of us.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to this one. John H. says, I hear you, Michael. I've been struggling to absorb this communist theory and dialectical materialism for the last few years. And I think I appreciate that people can kind of admit that it's not as easy as everyone makes it out to be. I think that's one of the problems. People tell you, go read theory, go organize. It's easy to say, but we're not maybe being honest about how difficult it is. Like, it's a learning curve, and it's kind of sophisticated stuff, right? But then we want to make ourselves feel smart, that it was easy for us to pick up, so it should be for you too, right? And then people would act like that, they won't be challenged on what they know, they're not really being dialectic if they feel like they've got it all right and they're not willing to really discuss what they might be wrong about. So
yeah, we'll just have to see what plays out, because he had horrible cabinet appointments last time. We didn't die, but I don't know. I don't know how. It's like the 2025 that he didn't, the project 2025 that he didn't know about until he knew about it, type of situation. So we just have to see what starts to unravel here.
I think like the we didn't die kind of thing is, well, maybe we didn't. Somebody else probably did.
Somebody else did. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So we got to try and keep that stuff in mind.
That's true. That's true. You want to say something?
I just want everybody to pay attention, not to the words, not to the flashing lights.
Can you hear her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to the flashing lights, because one thing that I do know is that this dude is purely an entertainer first. Like, he will entertain in order to distract so that he can accomplish things. And he has arrogance as a person who was elected with as many flaws that could have easily disqualified any other person, but he was elected. When I tell you that his nuts is bigger than Africa, and I'm telling you, he's going to try to get away with as much as his, and plus he cannot run again to be president. So this is going to be quite an interesting, entertaining 4 years.
Well, he's not the only entertainer, right?
Huh?
All of them are failed actors.
Yeah, but he's not a failed actor. He's one of the best in entertaining.
It's going to be a horror show,
well, yeah,
horror comedy at best. So.
Hey,
when I say
everybody's
that, I'm
still
saying
tuning in to freak shows.
Yeah.
Everybody's still tuning in to freak shows. As a matter of fact, those freak circus freaks used to be the first big shows that used to travel, and they made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Have you seen all the this just sparked this idea in my head, not idea, but thought. Over the weekend, I think all of these football games, and I think John Jones, the MMA fighter or whatever, all these people are doing that Trump dance. And and everybody's like, yeah, America's starting to catch on. They're get it. And I'm like, these are rich people. They're dancing for those tax cuts. They don't give a damn about what happens to you.
That's all that politics is vibes now kind of stuff. If you're stupid enough to just dance along with somebody because like they have the confidence to express like confidence in Trump, so then I guess I can be confident that if this person that I can see as extremely successful person who must be smart because they're successful or whatever, if they believe in Trump's success or whatever, I that's my heuristic or whatever, I should be able to trust in that. It's very stupid.
Because America worships celebrities and politicians. They don't worship the people who's in their community saving lives every day, making sure they have everything they need and shit like that. We celebrate, and I say we because I get caught up in the shit too. John Jones and the story of him was something amazing. To just even hear how he's actually like a Trump. This dude has committed crimes, like serious crimes, right? Crimes that you would think would put a person in prison for at least 25 plus years. He committed crimes, but now look at him. He's still competing, winning, and doing the Trump dance.
Depends on how much money you have.
I'm just saying. I can't imagine somebody doing the things that he did and still being out of prison.
What did he do?
He did a lot. One of the major things that I saw him doing, and one thing that he said he regrets the most, is he was drinking and driving, and he like ran a red light or something, and he hit a car or vehicle with a pregnant woman in it, and then he fled the scene.
Oh, that's what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's just one of the things.
I don't want to derail a conversation on John Jones.
I wanted to ask this one question. Just this one question. What does the audience and the people tuning in today think about Trump not using Tim Scott, the other guy, what's his name? The black senators and governors or whoever, a representative, using them, but not selecting any black people in
I'd rather
his
talk about
cabinet.
that on Black Life.
No,
I'm getting a little lost. So
Yeah,
I
I'd rather talk about that on Black Life because
okay.
Yeah, because we were gonna discuss that, like the Black Caucus and all that stuff. I think that would be good for
Okay.
Black Life.
I was just very interested to see because it's so obvious.
It is very obvious, but I wanted to get this for you as well, Michael. Going back to theory, Sean says it's not easy because everyone reads theory through different eyes and minds. Like
Yeah.
if you are left leaning, if you have left leaning ideas, you read and understand it one way. Right is another viewpoint. So that's where some of the confusion is coming based on like your vantage point of where you're reading it from. So that is a really good point. So I just wanted to.
And then people kind of move on the, at least the open-minded people like aren't going to stay on one spot on the spectrum for their whole life. They're probably going to shift further to the left or more to the right, depending on their personal experience. And this is kind of one of the, you get into the more deeper theory stuff. It's where you actually, we're getting to in our own lives by trying to read the theory and employ it. We're actually testing the theory that we're told to put our faith in. Because one of the things that they're saying is like I caught on recently listening to Midwestern Marx, is there's a difference between the Marxist definition of the universal and the particular compared to like the bourgeois academic definition of the universal and the particular. So the bourgeois say that the particular is the particular, the universal is the universal, and that's that. That's simpler, but it might be wrong because it's too simplistic. So then I think the interesting thing to think, the Marxist idea of the universal and the particular is that the universal is contained within the particular sort of thing. So that sounds like, to the random uneducated person, you try to explain that, like what kind of relevance is that going to have in my life? Why are we even wasting time talking about this nuance? But if you try and apply it, then when we're saying, like with Sean's comment here, if you had people left leaning and right leaning, if the universal is contained within the particular, it means that you can teach the communist theory and it should be equally understandable and acceptable to both the left and the right because it's a universal theory, and it can be taught to both the left and the right in their particular different ways, or whatever. It can still contain that kernel of universality. So does that make sense?
No.
You get the theory stuff, you get a little bit high on your own supply, right? It sounds like in your own mind, it sounds logical. It makes a lot of sense. But
No, I'm sure it's logical, but as you've been stating, like this theory can get complicated.
Yeah, you get turned in, you take a wrong turn in the woods, you get lost. So that's what it is with theory. So
see, and it's great that you are admitting that, right? Because now people in the chat are like, yeah, I'm just gonna say it too. Like T.L. Orca says, I took philosophy classes and Marxism theory. It's still difficult for me. And I think that because like Nico House and maybe Nick would act like what is it's all put together, like it's very obvious.
Yeah,
and it's really not that.
But that's like obvious. The eureka moment that you have once you've done years of work, and then it clicks in because you've been putting in the years of work. Then you can't unsee it. That's where Marxists get insufferable, right? Is because now we see the world this way, and it makes so much sense because we've been applying the theory. At least the way that we learned it, it makes a lot of sense, right? But then there's still flaws to it because we haven't achieved our revolution, and some of the things we're doing to organize our working, we have to not act like everything we do is a failure, because that's a failure in and of itself. But there are definitely some things about the theory and about the practice that's been wrong. And if we don't figure out what's wrong about it, we're going to keep repeating the mistakes. But this is where, in order to analyze and criticize the theory, you have to be risking being considered not orthodox Marxist, not authentic, whatever, not upholding the legacy, because you're trying to tinker too much with when you don't have the right, whatever, because you're too much of a noob, right? You don't know what you're talking about, so you don't have the right to tinker with a theory, right?
Right. So I don't know if this is a good segue into what's going on in Hong Kong.
Yeah, we were going to try and talk about that. Not exactly. One of the things that is difficult to understand, like with the Trotskyists and Marx-Leninists, is what do we think about China, right? Because one of the things I don't like about the Trotskyist take on China is it seems to be siding with the imperialist narrative talking points about, they attack China in a lot of ways like identical to the imperialist narrative about it. And then with the Marxist Leninists or whatever, it seems like they carry a lot of water for them, run some interference, right? They maybe won't tell you the real truth because it's the pragmatic, calculated approach is that it's a necessary evil to tell you a white lie or whatever in the moment for the good of the revolution, in which case you justified lying to the people who've started to believe in you, which I don't never think is a good idea. But
yeah. So this is going to be I don't think you've read up on this already, correct?
The Hong Kong, I read a little bit. I read a Global Times article from China to see what the state government has to say about it. That's about it, though.
Okay. So because I haven't read the article, I wanted to I don't know, do a first reaction or what have you. So let's see. My mom's out of here.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
That was my mom. Okay. Oh, there's a video.
The imperialist narrative about it, but we'll read it, right?
Yeah, this is from Reuters. 2 days ago? Jailing of 45 Hong Kong Democrats. Well, Democrats, but they're activists basically. And national security trial draws criticism. I wonder if you'll be able to hear this. I didn't know there was a video. Tell me if you can. It says loading ad. Great.
Yeah, the videos can be more trouble than they're worth sometimes.
Right, I think so. I'm just gonna.
But it does touch on what we were talking about. Some people are like, we can learn much quicker, more efficiently through audio visual of a video instead of reading. So that's probably.
Yep.
And then learning styles. I'm just saying that's just different learning styles.
So it's a little bit slow. I don't even know what is this.
I don't know what that is.
It looks like it's just getting us off topic. You try and click the video about the article and it just starts to play some random other stuff.
I'm gonna go to NPR because I appreciate this headline better. Pro-democracy advocates for up to 10 years. So let me just make this bigger. And while I'm doing that, while you were talking about auditory and versus visual, and then there are some people that are tactile learners.
Yeah.
They gotta touch it, do it, right?
Yeah.
Like different styles of learning.
It keeps expanding, but there's three major ones. You either visual, auditory, or kinesthetic.
So then 4, because tactile.
Right. So there is an argument that
sounds like kinesthetic. Okay.
There's a bit of an argument that it's like classist a bit to be telling people to go read theory when it's not necessarily like some people in the lower classes would struggle with that. I would say there's also an ableist argument to it. Like when when you're just telling people to do it, whatever, you're not trying to make accommodations for people with disabilities who maybe are struggling and need help learning the information in a different format. So
So Snorky is here. So I just wanted to mention his Discord channel if you guys aren't a part of it.
Hey Snork, what's up?
It's called can you type this out? I could do it. Hold on. The Snorkdom. So if you guys have Discord, let me see if let me make sure I got that right.
I'll just read his comment here. I volunteered to help a country in the Pacific that practiced a form of extreme communism. Ownership of anything was impossible, and it was very difficult to find a way to pay people. So, would you like to share with us what country that was? Because people always dispute. I know one thing for sure: Cambodia is not real communism. What happened there? But I don't want to get into you get into these side conversations like about the Holodomor being a genocide or Cambodia not being communism or whatever. You get stuck in those rabbit holes. I don't want to go they're atrocious conversations to have anyways. The propaganda about that stuff is nonsensical, and you have to talk about this horrific stuff to debunk it, and I just don't want to go there tonight. But yeah.
He's in Kiribati. So if you guys are on Discord, go to the Snorkdom. Come hang out with us. I want to see what kind of cool stuff he has going on that server. But he said Kiribati. Are you ready for me to read?
I didn't know that Kiribati had a communist experiment or whatever. I don't really know. That's like a Pacific Island nation. I don't really even know what that country is, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know either. Kiribati.
But I think that every nation should be communist. I think that's the way to keep it, right? I also think like if people are being logical, that would be the right thing to do. It's not just like I say that because I found my ideology, my religion to espouse, you know. So I genuinely believe that the economic system we have is, to call it even a system, is a bit of a joke. So
the fact that the known settler colonizers of the West go out of their way to sabotage communist countries says all you need to know.
basically, why do they try so hard to sabotage what is supposed to be such a bad idea would fail on its own if ever given the opportunity? So
Black Life looked it up for us. The Karate gained its independence from the United Kingdom, becoming a sovereign state in 1979. And where is Karate located?
So
they have a beautiful flag.
But as far as Snork's comment that it was an extreme form of communism, we kind of I don't want to talk about it without knowing more about it. That's never really a good idea. But I would also the idea that it was like ownership of anything was impossible. That's the idea. Like people don't understand how like ingrained it is, this social construct of ownership. Like it's just seen as such a natural thing, and that the idea of imagining a world without ownership is like impossible for people, that it would be a beneficial thing. So the way I like to think of it is like possession. To possess something is what people consider like personal ownership. And then communist Marxists always make the distinction. We're not after your personal ownership. We're after private ownership, private property. But people get confused with the semantics and everything. So I'm just saying, get rid of ownership. Okay. You can possess things. When you have something, it's in your possession. Okay. There's nothing confusing about that. But then when we're talking about you can own the house, the land that you're on, you're actually kind of like believing something that doesn't make sense. But because it's so normalized, it becomes impossible to acknowledge that it doesn't actually make sense, right? When you die, you can't take it with you. This is the most important thing. So how do you get to claim that it belongs to you because a piece of paper says it belongs to you? That sounds crazy to me, but you can't convince people that it's crazy. And it's difficult to find a way to pay people. Money is also a social construct that does so much damage, right? So the problem is we can't figure out how to get people to do work without needing this illusory transaction of nothingness, right? Money's value, or whatever, it kind of it is as real as it is not. So we need to figure out a classless, moneyless society. But when you try to do that, when there's a big ass United States hegemony still in existence, of course it's going to be
Pressing down on you.
appear to be the worst thing you could possibly try to do if you don't do it as a society together. If you do it isolated as a little anarchist group, it's going to fail. Sorry.
Possession. Sean says possession is 9/10 of the law. Sean, I saw you sent me 2 videos. I see them. I haven't watched them yet, but I see you. So this is Black Life saying many communities rely on imported processed foods, which are not only expensive but also contribute to undernutrition, diabetes, and other non-communicable diseases. Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
Huh?
That's about the place.
Oh,
That's
this is
why-
about the place.
Yeah, that's what makes it poor.
Oh, that's what makes it so poor. What? That's not resonating with me.
It says
Okay,
the
I'll
soil
let you.
conditions and the lack of access to fresh water make agriculture extremely difficult. So they have to rely on imports and all this other
Oh,
stuff.
okay. You left out the first part. That's what made it so confusing. The first part says the poor
Soil and lack of fresh water.
conditions and the poor soil conditions and lack of
Fresh
access to fresh water make agriculture extremely difficult in Kabati. And then this sentence comes after that. So now it makes more sense. Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah. Well, did we read Snork's comment just above that one?
You can go ahead and read it.
I've known communists from USSR, Czech, and Poland. They could have shirt and shoes. In Kiribati, you can walk up to someone and say, "I babuti your shoes," and they must give. See, I need to know more about what we're talking about to have like an honest kind of a more useful comment on like reaction.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Be
That
able to
sounds
speak on that.
ridiculous, right? Just because someone calls it communism doesn't mean it is, right? And this is the whole thing about going through the slog of the theory, and like every different communist experiment in each nation has its advantages and disadvantages, or the things that are we should be able to learn from them as other nations looking in. And then like the one thing that's really difficult is the like communism with Chinese characteristics kind of idea, and then like communism in Cuba are not the same kind of thing, and then communism in America is not going to be the same as those. So then it makes the word communism seem kind of so malleable that it can mean whatever you want it to mean. So that's where that idea about the universal and the particular kind of becomes important. Where
Seems like, I mean, at this stage, I would assume there's going to be some um, adjective or not disclaimer. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But there's going to be a word in front of communism to show which version of communism this place.
an operational definition is what I think is what
Operational.
you're talking about, because I see those all the time. Like MAGA communism is sort of one of those, whatever. Or the word Tat Parusha, I think, is also a good use for that. But that I may be transforming the meaning of those terms the way I use them, or whatever. So there is the diachronic.
Qualifier is the word I was looking for.
Right, because with the operational definition, you put a second word with the other word, and it qualifies the other word. It determines how the word is used, right? It's operationally being used. So
okay.
And a Tat Parusha is it means his servant. So which of these two words in a compound word is serving the other? So with MAGA communism, it's important to determine which is his servant, right? Because communism needs to be the one that is being served, not the servant. Because if communism is the servant of MAGA, it's a joke, it's not real. But if MAGA is serving communism, there's maybe something to it. So, but anyway, getting
So
distracted.
yeah, should I because it's like 1:50.
Right. So
I'm hungry.
yeah. Did you want to cover that Hong Kong story brief?
Yeah, briefly. Okay. Hong Kong court sentences 45 pro-democracy advocates for up to 10 years. Okay, up to 10 years in jail for conspiracy to commit subversion. So in Hong Kong today, a court handed 45 pro-democracy advocates sentences of up to 10 years in jail for conspiracy to commit subversion. It's a landmark national security trial that has dampened the city's once feisty pro-democracy movement.
China is democratic. I just want to point that out real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, most of it, right? There's
It
like
is a democratic system. It's just a one-party system, but people really don't believe that it is a democratic way of life that they have. They think that
but
they're.
isn't there like one city that's it's like a city in China that is it Beijing? What's the
I don't
city
know.
in China that's more communist than and everything else around it is a different system?
I'm not sure what you mean about that, but
Okay.
maybe XD might be able to help us. He's seems want to be one of the China experts from the Canadian Commies channel.
Okay,
I do believe
XD.
he's a
Hook
Asian
us up.
Canadian, but I'm not sure. So
XD, hook us up. Okay. So Laura Westbrook was at the court in Hong Kong and sent this report. Okay, Laura, here we go. Outside court, a lone yellow. Oh wait, it's gonna be all descriptive.
yeah, I don't. He says more communist. Do you know of what she's saying at all when she says that there's
Yeah,
some city that's more communist than the rest of the country? I don't
or
get it either.
socialist or something. It's like one area.
Because all I know is there's Hong
Okay.
Kong was like under British rule for a long time, and that's why they're acting like China doesn't have, and like Taiwan too, that China doesn't have a right to tell these to administer governmental authority because these people had nominal independence. But it was as far as Hong Kong was concerned, they had like made a deal, like a 99-year lease, like Liberia situation, whatever, that came to an end. So that was a contract that's over now. So legally speaking, China's in the right, and they're just using propaganda to try and act like China never has a right to be in the right. So same thing with Taiwan. It's ridiculous that they, all those years ago, made like legal statements in front of the United Nations and everything, enshrine stuff into law as far as China's rights over the island. And then because it's politically convenient for them nowadays to try and rescue their hegemony, they're willing to totally do an about face on everything they've made claims about for the past, whatever, 30 years. So
Yeah, I think maybe I flipped it. Like there's a city that's more capitalist. Maybe.
yeah, it's probably this
maybe I
talking about the
flipped it.
special economic zones like Shanghai. Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's so much I need to learn about
Oh,
China.
okay. Put that back up, please.
One of the problems is that it's
I think
there.
you meant more. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just wondered. I think you meant
Yeah.
more capitalist. Are you thinking about the special economic zones? Like, okay. Yeah, I must have flipped it.
Yeah. 'Cause it's kind of hard to learn about China because you can only rely on English. If you only know English, you have to rely on the English language sources. And if you can't really get that authentic confirmation about what the people are really saying unless you can read Mandarin or Cantonese kind of thing. So maybe I'm wrong about that. That's
Okay.
where Cobra is saying, I agree, whatever. China is correct to send these folks to jail. This would be like if Russians had a town in Wyoming and were building an anti-US government monument. Or like those Venezuelans who took over that apartment complex.
Yeah, see, so Cobra, this is like I haven't even read this. This is my first reaction. I don't know what's going on. So let me keep reading. Prosecutors accuse the activists of plotting to undermine the government by aiming to win a majority in the legislative council and use it to block budgets. The defendants included 28-year-old, okay, yada yada, became a figurehead of Hong Kong's democracy movement. He was sentenced to 4 years and 6 months. This is not a good article because it's just
No,
kind
they're
of
doing
talking
some
about
interview.
the
That's
different
annoying.
people. Yeah, this is not a good article. It should be more about the purpose behind, like the purpose behind the pro-democracy advocates and the government's stance on what they're doing. So I picked the wrong article. I apologize.
Well, I will share you the Global Times article that I had. Maybe I could just share my screen. But I think it would be good to read the Chinese side. If we're going to be reading the imperialist propaganda, we can at least read the communist propaganda, and then people at home can be satisfied that we've given both sides a chance, whatever, right? So China firmly opposes certain countries using lies case to smear and interfere with rule of law in Hong Kong. I think maybe I got to make this a bit bigger. Following Jimmy Lai's trial on Wednesday, coupled with the sentences of 45 people convicted of conspiracy to subvert state power on Tuesday, certain countries have targeted China. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, government, and Chinese mission to the European Union all strongly opposed their interference. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said on Wednesday that Jimmy Lai is a major mastermind and participant of the anti-China riots in Hong Kong. He is an agent and pawn of the anti-China forces. Lin added that Hong Kong upholds the rule of law. To abide by the law and bring lawbreakers to justice is a basic principle. The remarks came after Lai took the stand Wednesday in his own defense in Hong Kong's High Court. Lin noted that no one should be allowed to use freedom as a pretext to engage in unlawful activities and escape justice. The spokesperson also said that the central government firmly supports the Hong Kong SAR in safeguarding national security and punishing all acts that undermine national security in accordance with the law, and firmly opposes certain countries using the case to interfere in China's internal affairs and smear and undermine Hong Kong's rule of law. So I think that don't maybe need to really read more into that. I just wanted to I think I lost the this is the AP article that I was reading, but there was a CNN. Let me stop sharing, whatever. There was a CNN article that I saw that was demonstrating who those countries were that are smearing them, right? So
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. I saw the yellow umbrella that they were so descriptively discussing in that NPR article. Yeah,
I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm gonna have to. I don't know where that CNN article thing I had, but we're just gonna leave it on the cutting room floor because it's getting a bit late now. So.
Yep. So maybe we can pick that up as things unfold. I wanted to play this 3-minute clip that a nominee shared with us.
I had wanted to talk a bit about. I was saying I had wanted to talk a bit about the Canada Post strike that's going on in Ontario, but that's all right. We can do that another time. Hopefully, it'll be ongoing next week, and we can still talk about it because
hopefully it doesn't get. We can still talk about it.
You try and cover like what happened with the port worker strike. We try and cover it, and then by next week, nothing to cover because it's over. So we'll see.
Well, then what we will cover is why is it over so fast? Like what was the result?
That would be where the Trots seem to be having getting proven right quite a lot. Where every time a strike happens, they're always like, "This strike's going to end in failure because the fucking leadership of the strike, the union people, are going to sell out the workers, and you need to build a rank and file action committee to fight back against these corrupt union bosses, whatever." And they're basically always proven right by the corrupt union bosses, whatever. So we need to develop a better line on how to deal with unions, apparently. I think so.
I mean, the people who are over the unions, they're like getting cooed, or I guess, in their own little way.
Well, I wonder
have-
why don't we talk more about cooperatives? Everyone's talking about union, but a union is useful inside of a capitalist business framework. It's only applicable within a capitalist business. If you start a co-op, the business is the union, kind of, from what I'm like. It's a different model that you're working with.
A B corporation. Good night, Jacqueline. Jacqueline's gone.
Thanks for
going night night. Thanks for hanging out with us.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, B corporations would probably be the discussion that most needs to be had. You know, but should I play this and then?
Yeah, and then we can wrap.
We'll get your thoughts, and then I just have a video we could go out on.
All right.
So here we go. So now we're switching gears again.
Yeah,
But thank you, Anomaly, for this video. Let's see what we got here.
Hopefully.
Before I play that, I just wanted to say that Snarky said we definitely have a problem with union managers taking advantage of workers. Yeah, you know what they're starting to remind me of? Like, they're starting to remind me of underwriters, right? So you know how you get insurance, and the people you talk to on the phone are like, oh, we have to give this to the underwriters, and then they give you the news that you're basically about to get fucked over. Well, this was the underwriter's decision. Well, why am I talking to you? I want to talk to the fucking underwriter.
Yeah.
But they're shielding these horrible people.
Yeah. Well, the union leaders, they always say, okay, we're gonna go negotiate, we're gonna go bargain on your behalf. Trust us, this is gonna be going great. Don't worry, we got it.
Right.
And then they go and backstab and talk behind their backs, whatever, set up a concession deal that's completely against what the workers need. And then they just go back to the workers and they just explain to them why that this is what it has to be like. And they tried their best, but there's like, it's a tale of old time at this point. It's disgusting.
Right.
So there's no accountability. That's the issue. We have a problem. We need a solution. We need accountability. How do you get it? Certain things you can't say on YouTube. If whatever kind of pressure that we're applying is not working, we need a different type of pressure. I'm just going to put it that way. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying, right?
Okay, so Frantz Fanon on violence, courtesy of Anonymity.
And good that we're watching a video on violence, considering the context of what I just said.
And what Cobra just wrote.
On Violence is the first section of the 1961 book written by Frantz Fanon called The Wretched of the Earth. In this section, Fanon undertakes to analyze the specificities of violence within the context of decolonization. He tries to answer the following question: what are the negative and positive aspects of violence? Fanon himself was born and raised as a colonial subject under the rule of France in the archipelago of Antilles. His relationship with the powers of colonization is therefore acutely felt and extremely personal. Fanon describes decolonization as a historical process where two contradicting powers meet each other face to face, the colonizer and the colonized. The colonizer, for Fanon, is the one who brings violence in the home and into the mind of the native. In fact, Fanon thinks that violence is the defining characteristic or the natural state of the colonial rule. Such violence is not always physical. It often manifests itself as a form of cultural discrimination or outright dehumanization of the native subject. The very psyche of the colonized subject is successfully fabricated by the colonizer who tries to shape an animal out of the colonized. Correspondingly, when the colonized subject is rendered non-human, colonizers are left, in their effort to control the non-human, with a single option: constant physical violence. For Fanon, therefore, the process of decolonization really is about the creation of new men. Through active participation in decolonization, Native people can bring about a new generation of men with a new language and a new humanity. But how does violence fit into all of this? As we mentioned, violence is the natural state of the colonizer's rule. Therefore, in order to liberate themselves, Native people have to find an outlet through which the forces accumulated in the forms of colonizers' aggression can be released. This is what Fanon calls the collective catharsis, which describes Native people's experience of violently obliterating the colonial rule. By virtue of this decolonizing violence, the colonized subject can reclaim the new generation of men, a new language, and a new humanity. The humanity that once had been denied to the colonized subject can be regained, according to Fanon, by engaging in revolution. Fanon says, violence frees the native from his inferiority complex and from his despair and inaction. It makes him fearless and restores his self-respect. Most importantly, by engaging in liberation, the colonized subject discovers that his life, his breathing, and his heartbeats are the same as the colonists. The colonized subject discovers that the skin of a colonist is not worth more than the natives. Fanon clarifies, however, that violence can never be pursued without a clear political goal. Violence, which may bring about liberation, also leaves behind untreatable physical and mental problems. Revolutionary violence may in fact leave Native people rootless and stateless. Fanon is determined to describe violence as equally harmful to both the colonizer and the colonized. For Fanon, there is no reason why the violence that destroyed the indigenous fabric should not result in vindication and appropriation of such violence when the colonized finally swarm into the forbidden cities.
What I find interesting about that is it just made me think of how they always say it's okay if you protest. We want to hear your views as long as it's peaceful. What good does that do?
Yeah.
Nothing ever comes of it.
It's that Christian turn the other cheek stuff has really been proven to be bankrupt at this point. I think like there are some teachings of Christ maybe that are valuable. I don't think that's one of them. I think that one's proven to be counterproductive, whatever, harmful even to teach people that. So
It's like, yeah, okay, kids, go outside and play and wear yourself out. Nothing's gonna change.
yeah.
But at least you felt like you did something.
Well, I heard somebody. I should maybe, whatever. Shout out a new podcast I come across called the Indigenous Nightmare Network, TINN. So that's an interesting new channel. Indigenous, Marxist, whatever, anti-settler colonial kind of theory. Go ahead and check those guys out. But what they were saying on there was about the protests and the cop cities, whatever. I thought he made a really good comment. I forget his name, but he said that they're out there building cop cities while they're going out doing a parade march for like between 6 and 9 or something, and then going home and calling it a good night out or something. Like, it's not safe for you to feel like what we did was productive and effective when it is like wasting the necessary time we need to be like preparing for, if not preparing for revolution, preparing for the wave of fascism that's about to crash down on everybody. So
Yep, exactly. We got Sean and Cobra all riled up in the chat.
well, it sounds like Feds got Cobra riled up. Been giving them threats, right? But they threatened all of us.
Were you okay? So he must have went to a protest and then someone showed up at his door, maybe.
I don't know.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, with this kind of thing, it gets a bit dangerous even delving into it too much. It's not the right format here on live on YouTube where I'm to be discussing what the feds are up to as far as knocking on people's doors, whatever. I do worry about that happening with me, even, but I've not been nearly as active as people like Cobra here. I've been kind of trying to stay under the radar more, being cowardly about it, I guess. But because they're gonna hurt you, right? If you don't know how to fight them back, we got to part of organizing is teaching people how to defend themselves, and it's one of those things that people are afraid to do because they're afraid of coming across as fascist to teach each other how to like do self-defense properly. So you gotta get over that.
Okay, well then, you want to say what is the name of that channel? You want me to type it up and put it in
The Indigenous the Indigenous Nightmare Network. Let me type it up.
Okay.
But, as far as you had another video
that we could leave on, yeah.
Cool. As far as my comment on that Franz Fanon video, I think I've seen it before, but it was a good refresher. The tricky thing for white skin, one of the colonizers watching that video is that the advice is for Native people is good for them to reclaim their self, their like to defeat the helplessness and stuff taught by colonizers through violence and stuff. Well, I can't read that message the same because I'm not one of the natives. But what they did say was that like the natives and colonizers, they learned that they have the same organs kind of thing. We are the same in a lot of ways. And that what they try and emphasize is so different about us is done as much through propaganda as anything. So while it is important not to be colorblind about stuff, I think it's just as important to remember whatever that, people, like it's not just about your skin color that defines who you are kind of thing. So
well, I would put it in this context. I would put it in the context of the Irish who were indentured servants when and after they got their freedom from their feudalism, they were poor, obviously, and then they started banding together with poor Black people, and the colonizers said, "Oh, we can't have this," because they didn't consider the Irish, they consider them not as subhuman as Black people, but they were, they were pretty down there too. And then they said, "Okay, we'll just classify you as white, so at least you're not them, right?" They fell for the Fugazi and started adapting the colonizer mind. But what if this video would have? What if we could have applied this video if those two groups would have banded together then, right? And then also say with the Black Panther Party, they were advocating for poor people, not just poor Black people, but poor people. So there were, that's why they got killed, because you couldn't have that either. So when we look at this video, we can't think of it in terms, I mean, we could think of it in terms of what would have happened when the settlers came, but they came with weapons, so there was not much to do.
I thought the
but now we all have weapons.
From what I remember, the way I was taught history, where there was a time where before they committed the massacres and genocides, that the indigenous were willing to share the land with them.
They were.
And the history could have gone a completely different way.
Right.
But the white man had their plans in mind that they would not be dissuaded from. So, but I think I would really like to have a conversation. I'll do one of our next episodes soon on this issue about how do indigenous revolutionaries and colonizing or like settler revolutionaries find ways to overcome the very, very serious barriers to working together, because it's not going to be easy, but I do think it will be in our best interest if we could find out how to support each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, settler revolutionary is a better term than colonizer. Colonizer is I that term I use for a specific thought, a white person that has a specific thought process in their head.
because I do feel that I wouldn't be surprised if people disagree with my stances on things, that they start to categorize me as a colonizer and stuff, and that's I can understand why they would do that. It just makes it difficult for me not to get upset and feel like I'm being discriminated against, and maybe unfairly, right? So, but
It's
there's a
just
lot
like
of learning to do. So.
Yep, it's just like the term boomer versus baby boomer to me, or tether versus
As much as there's validity to creating the distinctions, I think at the end of the day, it plays into the imperialist hands. They want us divided and fighting, and we indulge them because it's easy to hate your neighbor, I guess. Especially when your neighbor's descendant is someone who stole your land, right? So
right.
But we probably got to get out of here. I see everyone saying good night, Orca.
Yep. So I'm just gonna play this.
Kill your egregores. So.
Good night, everyone. We're leaving. We're out of here. We've done enough. But if you can stay just to watch this little short, I think it's like a minute. Because I think it's a perfect segue out of the violence video we just watched. And well, just watch it.
Okay. Well, have a good night.
Good seeing everybody. See you next week.
Next time. Thank you. Take care.
You there, second desk, blue jacket. What is your name?
My name is Alexis.
Alexis, please leave my lecture room. I don't want to see you at one of my lectures ever again.
I don't understand.
I am not going to ask a second time. Thank you. Why are there laws? What are laws for? Anyone?
Social order?
To protect the person's personal rights. So that you can rely on the government.
Justice? Thank you. Tell me, was I unfair to your classmate just now? Indeed I was. So, why didn't any of you protest? Why didn't any of you try and stop me? Why didn't you want to prevent this injustice? You see, what you have just learned, you wouldn't have understood in 1,000 hours of lectures unless you lived it. You didn't say anything because you weren't affected yourself. And this attitude speaks against you and against life. You think it doesn't concern you, so it's none of your business. Well, I'm here to say, if you don't help bring about justice, then one day you too may experience injustice, and there will be nobody there to stand before you. Truth and justice lives through us all, and we must fight for it. Because in life and work, I mean, we often live next to each other, but not with each other. We console ourselves that the problems of others are nothing to do with us, none of our business. And we go home glad at night that we're spared, but it's about standing up for each other. Every day an injustice happens in business, sport, or on the tram. Relying on someone else to take care of it is not good enough. It is our duty to be there for others, to speak up for others when they cannot. I am here to teach you the power of your voice. I want you to learn critical thinking, to empower you to stand up for what is right, even if it means going against what everyone else is doing. Let's begin.
I
Good
wasn't
night,
thinking we were coming
everyone.
back. But
I know. Good
it's all
night,
good.
everyone. I hope that that inspired somebody.
I appreciated that. That was nice. Oh,
Yep. So let's begin. And on that note, good night, everyone. We love you.
good night. Free the world.